Today, you're in my kitchen because it's my kimchi making day, and I thought I would show you how I make my simple but really delicious homemade kimchi. I'm going to get started right away. I have a 2.5 pound head of Napa cabbage, freshly washed. So I'm going to start chopping that, and I usually just rough chop this into maybe 2-inch chunks. In fact, you don't have to chop it at all. If you prefer whole leaf kimchi, you can do that as well, but it's easier to eat if it's chopped. So I just roughly chop it. Do any of you eat kimchi? My mom is from Korea, so it's kind of in my blood. I love kimchi, and I especially love making it myself because, number one, I enjoy the process, and number two, I get to control the way it tastes to my preference. So, and I make really good kimchi because I've been making my own kimchi for several years now. And after you make dozens of jars of kimchi, kind of get the hang of it after a while. Before I started making my own, I used to buy the store-bought, the commercial kimchi, and it's good, but it's kind of hard finding, well, first of all, nothing tastes like homemade ever, but it's hard to find brands that don't put additives in, like MSG and just other undesirable ingredients, I'll just put it that way. So again, that's why I like making it myself, because I can just make it exactly the way I want, and I can omit ingredients that don't need to be in there, frankly. And also, my recipe, this kimchi, it tastes really, really, really good. So it's honestly the best kimchi I've ever had, and I'm not even just saying that because I'm the one who makes it. It just is the best that I've ever tasted. So. And these tender leaves, the really small ones, I actually like to kind of keep these whole if they're really small, because they're really delicious when the kimchi's all done. It's like the tender part, and it soaks up a lot of the flavor, so it's really yummy. But yeah, I always have a jar of kimchi in my refrigerator because it's so good for you. Anything fermented, food and beverage, it's healthy because it populates your gut with healthy bacteria, so that's good. Okay, so for now, this is step one, and I'm going to salt this generously. I just use this sea salt, just plain sea salt I get from Costco, and I'm going to put, this is a half cup measure, so I'm going to put about a half a cup of salt. Which is a lot of salt, but it's necessary for the brining process, which comes before the actual fermentation process. So I sprinkle this over the kimchi, or over the cabbage, excuse me, and then I use these disposable food grade gloves. These are just food service gloves that I always have in my kitchen. And with these gloves on, I will just massage the cabbage, and as you do this, you'll find that the salt draws out the natural moisture in the cabbage, and it starts to get smaller in volume. So I don't go to the gym. This is kind of how I get my workout in, things like this. I'm kidding. Well, kind of. But, so I just really get in there, and I can already tell that it's shrinking because it's becoming wilted with the salt. And once this is done, and it's good and incorporated, and it's coating every leaf. Once this is done, I will I will kind of submerge the cabbage, the salted cabbage, with enough filtered water to not drown the cabbage, but you want enough in it so that there is a brine solution, a salt solution. So this looks really good. This looks great. And then I just kind of pack it down, and that's good to go. And it shrank way down, so that's what you want. And gloves coming off. And so yeah, for now this is it. I will come back when when this is done brining. I have to brine this at room temperature. I fill it with filtered water, just a little bit above the leaves. I don't drown it, but just a little bit. And then I usually put like a dish or a plate or something heavy to press it down, and then I will cover that with just a clean tea towel and keep it on. I just put this on my range. It's not turned on, but my stove top at room temperature for about, you want ideally about 2 hours. I have in the past had success brining it for as little as 1 hour, and I've also brined it for as long as 6 hours. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is whenever I have time to deal with it is when I get around to dealing with it. Today is a Sunday, so it's a perfect kimchi making day. So I'm going to let this brine for about 2.5 hours, and then I will come back with the next steps. Hello again. I have prepared the next step to save some time so I can show you the important parts only. So in this bowl, I have 1 tablespoon of sugar, 8 cloves of fresh garlic grated, 2 teaspoons of grated fresh ginger root, 1 medium carrot, 1 cup of grated Asian pear, about 5 green onions, scallions, and I think that's about it. Oh, and the main part is the red pepper, Korean red pepper flakes. I have about 6 tablespoons, and that's something you cannot substitute. I use this. You can buy any brand, but this is any Korean grocery will have this. It's product of Korea, and it's a hot red pepper powder, so you need this to make kimchi. So I have 6 tablespoons in here. And here is my, look how much this shrank, you guys. A whole 2.5 pound head of Napa cabbage shrank down to this amount. So that's what you want. This is after brining for 2.5 hours at room temperature. So it's all set to go. After you brine it, you want to rinse it. I rinse it twice. You don't want to over rinse it because you need some of the salt remaining, but you rinse it about twice with cold water in a colander and then press it to release the water. That's what's in this bowl. And now this part is really simple. We're almost done. We're going to, I am going to put my gloves on again. And this part is really simple. We just dump everything in. Guys, it smells amazing, like ginger and garlic and spice. I love the smell. It smells like kimchi, but you know, of course not fermented yet, but it has that smell. So here's all of my stuff, and I just go to town. And you massage. You want to that's why these gloves. You need these gloves. You want to massage the spices, the spice and the sugar, onions, and that sweet pear. The little bit of sugar, the carrot, and the Asian pear are going to be the food for the bacteria. So when this is set out at room temperature in my kitchen to ferment, the bacteria need something to eat, so they eat the sugar. And then the byproduct of that is the fermented alcohol, which creates kimchi. It creates the fermentation process. So just a little, you know, fermentation 101. And okay, so it's really glorious. I love this stage because it starts coming together majorly. So I'm going to take these off, these messy gloves off, and I want to show you guys. Look, it already kind of looks like kimchi. It's just not fermented yet. So this is always like a very exciting stage for me. Even though I've made this so many times, it never gets old because I love the anticipation of having fresh homemade kimchi in a few days. Okay, so now I have a simple funnel that I MacGyvered. It didn't come like this. I got this at Walmart, but the hole was too small, so I just took a X-Acto knife and I carefully made it, you know, right for what I need it for. And I have a 1/2 gallon clean sterilized jar here, and you just put this in the jar, and when you do this, the first time you do this, it's going to seem stressful because you're going to feel like, uh-oh, it's not all going to fit. But trust me, not only is it going to fit, you're going to have room to spare because it gets compressed down, and that's what you want. All right, so this is done. And depending on your taste preference, once this is jarred, that's it, you guys, it's done. I will leave this alone. See what I mean? I will leave this alone in a cool, dark place in my kitchen. I usually put it underneath the cabinet, you know, not near the sink or anything, but just in the pantry is fine, in a cool, dark place. And I leave it, at least, you want to leave it for at least 24 hours. I've left it up to 70 hours at room temperature, and then at which point you will refrigerate it. And it continues to ferment in the refrigerator too, actually, but much more slowly. So that initial fermentation process, 1 to 3 days at room temperature, that's what you want. And again, if you like really fermented taste, you can leave it longer. So like 2 or 3 days. If you like that more zingy, fresh kimchi taste, you want to put it in the refrigerator after about 24 hours or 30 hours. So again, I've made it all different ways. I will eat kimchi this, that, and the other way anyway. But I kind of like it somewhere in between. So I tend to do like a day and a half. And I will write down, I usually write down the date so I can keep track. Put the lid on, close it tightly, and that is it. And I don't know about you, but this turns me on because I love fermented food. I love kimchi, and my kimchi is, you know, the best. So I'm biased, but it is. So I hope you guys try to make your own homemade kimchi. As you can see, it's so simple. Yes, it's laborious and there are many steps, but it's very, very simple. And when you taste your own homemade kimchi, there's no going back. You will never buy kimchi from a grocery store ever again, because the difference is like night and day. It's not even a contest. So here's to my health, and hopefully here is to your guys' health too. If any of you attempt to make this, please tell me how it turns out and tell me how you enjoy it. To our health.